This podcast is brought to you by Varietea.
Hello everyone, welcome to Variety, a platform where we will talk about matters related with the SDG goals in this podcast. I'm Fara, your host for today, and in today's episode, we will talk about a hot topic that has been raised by the public regarding the gender equality issue, called Empower the Women and We Develop the Nation. So without wasting our time, let's get started. First and foremost, the topic of gender equality is not new. In addition to being a fundamental human right, gender equality is also a necessary prerequisite for a world that is secure, prosperous, and sustainable. The main topic we want to emphasize in this podcast is women in leadership. Now is the time to acknowledge the advantages of having women in leadership positions. We think that women can be a powerful leaders. As far-reaching diversity and gender parity in leadership and decision-making are concerned, we believe that women today are potent change agents. In fact, by taking the lead when it comes to making decisions in politics, business, and communities, women are making their mark on the world. So what are the significant benefits of having women in leadership positions? There is a lot to say about this. I conducted research on this issue on a global scale and discovered that when women hold leadership positions, problem solving will improve. This was apparent during the COVID-19 crisis when, according to 57.2% of the survey respondents, women were rated more favorably than men for overall leadership effectiveness in a Harvard Business Review. And in terms of emotional intelligence competencies, which the Department of Labor described as even more important to work readiness than technical or hard skills, studies have shown that women outperform men in 11 of 12 key competencies. In spite of the fact that women make up more than half of the workforce in the United States as of 2021, according to a statistic on women in leadership as of 2020, there are 41 women who were running businesses on the Fortune 500 list, which is an all-time high. And in 2022, women were found to hold 8.8% of leadership positions at the Fortune 500 companies. You know what? There are many different perspectives on what leadership actually entails. Leadership can also imply bravery and adaptability. A courageous leader, for instance, knows when to step up and take the initiative when there's no one else want to, but they also know when to back off and let others take the lead. A resilient leader also understands their own and their team's strengths and weaknesses and knows when and how to use those resources when a project or situation changes. And when things don't go as planned, they also know how to pick themselves back up and keep going. You are now aware of women in leadership. Let's move on to a few instances of female leaders from various countries. The first story from this perspective focuses on the 5 female leaders of Finland's new coalition government, which took office in December 2019. And due to the new left wing of the government, this new coalition has been one of the topics discussed in Finland with a focus on gender. All 5 of the party's leaders, including the new female prime minister, are female, with the majority of them being under 40 years old. And Sanna Marin are one of it, which is the prime minister of Finland. Finland is one of the countries that can be one of the examples that practice gender equality and also women's rights. Finland also has a long story with gender equality and has the world's first country to offer full political rights to women in 1906. And here are some facts that we can tell you about how Finland can succeed in practicing women's rights in their country. Firstly, women in Finland enjoy high-quality education. In fact, Finland was recognized as the world leader in 2018 for closing the gender gap in educational achievement. This is demonstrated by the consistently high levels of education among women. Second, political institutions provide equal representation. Being the first parliament in the world to have female members, Finland government has a history of advancing gender equality. Sanna Marin, Finland's third female prime minister, took office in December of 2019, and Finland elected its first female prime minister in 2003. 5 parties, all of which are led by the women under the age of 35, make up Marin's coalition government, and now Finland was consequently ranked 6th in the world for female political empowerment in 2018. Thirdly, women also dominate the labor market. Finland has the highest rate of female labor force participation in the world and is considered one of the best countries for working women. The employment rate for Finnish women is also higher than the average for the European Union. However, Finland still needs to make changes too, as the pay for women in the public and private sectors is only 80 to 85% of what it is for men. Nevertheless, the gender pay gap has been narrowing over the past 20 years, and expectations are that it will continue to do so because of social welfare programs that help women balance their work and family obligations. Finland can serve as a great example for other nations in promoting women as leaders due to its success in advancing women's rights. Now, let's move on from the global example and see what Malaysia's situation is with respect to women's rights and female leadership. Do we actually do this in our nation? Let's explore it. According to research in the annual report on women in business, Malaysia had the highest ever percentage of women in senior leadership roles in 2021, at 37% despite the COVID-19 that was affecting economies all over the world. This demonstrates that the progress of the Asian region has made, as the percentage of women in senior leadership has increased from 35% in 2020 to 38% in 2022. The situation for Malaysia is encouraging in light of these results. Nevertheless, despite the encouraging result, there are still gaps in the statistics and Malaysians' perceptions of women participation in a particular field. For example, while 37% of senior leadership positions in Malaysian private companies are held by the women, there is only 80% of the 43 highest positions in the government, including Director and Secretary General of the nation ministries, are held by women. Therefore, this demonstrates that there is still a gender gap in our nation. In reality, there are a lot of women leaders who are capable of holding senior positions. They ought to be given the chance to be examined, and Malaysia's senior citizen leader also should be replaced with young or female leaders who will run the nation much like Finland did. We also discovered that the stereotypes about women still limit their responsibilities and roles to only at home. The toxic masculinity or culture of male leadership was still widely accepted, and society still believed that only men could lead an organization or a nation. And due to these circumstances, Malaysia's progress toward gender equality and female leadership is lagging. Well, there are a few women leaders in Malaysia who stand out as champions of women's rights, but in this episode, we would like to focus on Datin Paduka Marina Mahathir, a well-known author and social activist in Malaysia. Women's rights and the abolition of discrimination based on sexual orientation are two issues Marina is known for championing using her platform. She spends her time writing educational articles for the Stars newspaper, musing column, in addition to being actively involved in numerous non-governmental organizations like the Malaysian AIDS Foundation. And she also wrote 2 books, which is 50 Days Rantings by MM in 1997 and Telling It Straight in 2012. This attracted the interest of many Malaysian bookworms, and for her active volunteer work in the public fight against STDs like HIV/AIDS, Marina also given the UN Person of the Year award in 2010. We have finished discussing the global and Malaysian examples of gender equality. We are now going to discuss how the idea of having women in leadership positions can actually motivate the upcoming generation. Firstly, they can assist us in embracing our feminine energy. As more women assume leadership roles or start their own businesses, investing in embracing our feminine energy through intuition, amplifying compassion, and embodying passions results in a more holistic business. Modern audiences, for instance, embrace the humanness of leading when women step into their true self with openness, transparency, ownership of emotions, and clarity about values, vulnerabilities, and fears. In the past, women have been urged to adopt masculine leadership qualities in order to advance in the workplace. Second, these female leaders also can inspire the subsequent generation of women to have the courage to succeed. Given the numerous obstacles to gender equality, women must support one another despite culture's propensity to try pit against one another. Women need to support one another rather than set each other back, and by harnessing the collective strength of women, this can inspire the current and future female leaders. According to Business Insider research, women are perceived as better and more capable leaders than men are. As a result, we think that women can also make a good leaders because they can lead more effectively. Until they are between the age of 36 and 40, men are typically regarded as more effective leaders. But for women who become significantly more productive than men after the age of 40, and this trend continues until the age of 60. Women in executive roles bring expertise, new perspective, and creative ideas to the table. However, when these three elements are taken into account jointly, they support the development of novel viewpoints that enhance business decision making. Second, the importance of mentors, particularly for the younger generation, cannot be overstated. Regardless of gender, everyone needs a mentor as their careers progress. Women leaders are more valuable coaches and mentors than men, especially for up-and-coming talent. Women can make excellent mentors because they are more understanding, strong-willed, tactical, and cognizant than men. We must put an emphasis on women mentoring women and include more and more women in mentoring programs if we want a bright future. That concludes our episode for today. I hope you enjoy listening to it and learning more about how to empower the women and we develop the nation. Overall, if you are listening to this, it means that you finished listening to the entire episode with me, Fara, your host for today. We sincerely appreciate your support and we do hope you had fun listening to this episode, and keep in mind that in the future, there will be no female leaders, but there will be just leaders. Thank you everyone and have a good day.